All right, picture this for a second. It's a Monday morning, February 20th. You're in Tampa, Florida, walking into a K-8 school called Legacy Preparatory Academy.
Oh.
And usually, a Monday morning assembly in a middle school is, well, let's be honest.
It's chaotic, a
Yeah.
mix of sleepy kids and just fluctuating energy.
Exactly. But you walk into this room, and the vibe is completely different. It's not a classroom. They're calling it a locker room. The students aren't just students. They're the Panthers.
I like that. It immediately signals that something different is happening here.
Right. And the people in charge aren't teachers with textbooks. You have a head coach and someone they call the soul of the support staff.
Which is a perfect entry point for our deep dive today.
What?
We are looking at a really fascinating case study in social emotional learning, or SEL.
We are. It's a partnership between this school, Legacy Prep, and an outside group called Storm Squad Superheroes.
A very memorable name.
I have to admit, when I first saw Storm Squad Superheroes in the source stack, my skepticism radar went off a little bit. It sounds a little comic booky, maybe a little young for middle schoolers.
I had the same thought. But then you get into the documents, like the Legacy Prep Pregame Playbook, and you realize, okay, there is some serious strategy under the surface here.
A lot of strategy. And that really gets to the mission of this deep dive, right? How do you take these huge, heavy concepts like resilience, trauma-informed care, self-worth? How do you translate all that into something that a 13-year-old facing, serious economic disadvantages can actually grab onto? How do you make mental health cool?
Yeah, because if the delivery is boring, you've lost them. The best theory in the world won't matter if the kids tune out.
So let's start with the context. The sources give us a lot on Legacy Prep itself. What are the field conditions here?
Well, the SWOT analysis in the documentation paints a very clear picture. Legacy Prep is a public charter school in Tampa. It's small, only about 127 students from K through 8.
And the demographics are key.
They're absolutely key. It's a highly diverse student body, majority Black and Hispanic. But the statistic that really jumps out is the economic disadvantage rate. It's hovering right around 100%.
100%. So literally every single student qualifies for Title I support. That's a heavy stat.
It is.
Yeah.
And we need to unpack what that actually means for a school. Because when you see 100% economic disadvantage, you're not just talking about money for lunch. You're almost certainly talking about a high rate of ACEs.
Adverse childhood experiences.
Exactly. Poverty correlates so strongly with instability, with household stress, with trauma. So these kids are walking in the door carrying this invisible backpack of high cortisol levels.
And the resources to handle that are stretched thin. The sources mention a student-teacher ratio of about 21-1.
Which, in a well-funded suburban school might be manageable. But here, in a high-need environment where we know reading and math proficiency are already below state averages.
It's a pressure cooker.
It's a total pressure cooker. A teacher isn't just an educator at that point. They're trying to be a crowd control officer while also teaching algebra.
Which brings us to the gap they identified in the analysis. The school's mission statement is beautiful. It talks about a nurturing environment. The principal, Mrs. Yolanda Capers, clearly has a vision.
She does. But there's this huge gap between that goal and the resources they have to actually manage student behavior and, regulate their nervous systems.
So she needs what the report calls wraparound support. Not just a new textbook, but something that calms the room down enough so the kids can open the textbook.
And that's where the Storm Squad comes in. This is the opportunity in that SWOT analysis.
Okay, so let's meet the players. We've got head coach Warren Thompson. His background is in physical wellness ergonomics.
Right. And then you have Charletta, who is the DWG.
The designated wellness guide.
Or as they call her, the soul of the operation. And you can already see the balance. You have the structure and physical discipline from the coach, and you have the emotional safety from Charletta.
But let's go back to that superhero's name. How do they sell this to the kids? Because if I'm an 8th grader and someone walks in wearing a cape, I'm making fun of them.
Well, they don't wear capes. They wear the uniform of the system. And here's the key. They don't call it a seminar. They brand the whole thing as the pregame.
The pregame.
The classroom is the bubble, like a protected training facility. The students are the Panthers. It completely reframes the context.
So it's not sit down and learn about your feelings. It's we are a team preparing for a game.
Precisely. It shifts the whole dynamic from compliance to cooperation, from do what the teacher says to do what the team needs.
And there's an acronym Charletta uses to anchor this. YODOW. YODOW.
Youth of diverse origins.
Okay.
Now, on the surface, that might sound a little bit like nonprofit jargon, but think about the psychology. These kids might be labeled at risk or disadvantaged. Those are deficit labels.
Right, they define you by what you lack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But youth of diverse origins acknowledges their different, maybe difficult stories.
Oh.
But it strips away the judgment. The message is, we know you all have different backgrounds, but in this room, you're drafting the same future. It's a unification tactic.
Okay, so the room is set, the identity is set. Now let's get into the playbook. This is the part that really surprised me. I was expecting, I don't know, trust falls or something.
Right.
But the core activity is coloring.
I know. It creates a bit of a disconnect at first, doesn't it? You hear coloring and you think kindergarten. But this is very specific. They call it active mental highlighting.
Which sounds fancy. Is it just coloring inside the lines?
It is, but the why is everything here. We have to look at the neuroscience. When a kid is in a high-stress state, their amygdala is firing. They're in fight or flight.
You can't just talk them down from that.
You really can't. But by giving them a fine motor skill task that requires precision-like coloring, a complex line drawing, you force the brain to shift focus.
It's a hack for the nervous system.
It's essentially that, yeah. To stay in the lines, you have to slow your breathing, you have to steady your hand. That physical act forces the brain to downshift from alert to flow. It's not about making pretty art. It's about inducing regulation without saying, hey, calm down.
That makes so much sense. And the images they're coloring aren't just random cartoons, they're the scouting reports.
Exactly. Each one is a visual metaphor for a specific mental skill. They break it down into offense, defense, and franchise value.
Let's walk through these because the metaphors are surprisingly deep. Let's start with offense. The play is the play breaker.
Or the audible. And the visual is aggressive. It's a person literally bursting out of a smartphone screen in a fighting stance.
I think we can all relate to wanting to do that sometimes. What's the message for the students?
So think about an audible in football. The quarterback sees the defense and changes the play at the last second. The coach's message here is, society, algorithms, statistics, they have all designed a play for you. They want to box you in.
So the offense is disrupting that.
Yes. It's giving them permission to disrupt. When they color that image, they're physically engaging with the idea of breaking out of a pre-written narrative. It reframes their natural rebellious energy as a strategic advantage.
Don't follow the algorithm. Write your own play. I like that.
Then you switch to defense. The play is the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But the image is the total opposite. It's serene. It's a girl blowing on a feather.
Right, with a book and an inkwell. So what's the metaphor here?
Okay, so in football, the cadence is that moment right before the snap. The stadium is screaming, it's pure chaos, but the quarterback has to be perfectly still. He has to control his breath.
So the defense isn't about tackling someone else.
It's about defending your own inner peace. The lesson is, the crowd is loud, but you are silent. They use that image of the feather to teach breath work. They don't say, let's do a mindfulness exercise.
No, that'd be a tough sell.
Instead, they say, this is your line of scrimmage. This is how you stop the blitz. It gives them a powerful tool.
Okay, the third one. This is the one that really got me. Franchise value. The play is called The Contract.
This is the philosophical core of the whole program.
The visual is an athlete on a scale, looking confident, and next to the scale are big bags of money. For those who don't follow the NFL, explain the franchise tag.
The franchise tag is basically a team saying, this player is so valuable to us, we are locking them in at a guaranteed high salary. It means your value is non-negotiable. You are essential.
And the instruction Coach Warren gives them is fascinating. He tells them, color the player, but do not color the money bags.
Think about how subversive that is for these kids and for our whole culture, really. The bag, the money is the goal.
It's the measure of success.
Right, and he's saying the money is external. That's your grades, that's the likes you get, that's the performance review. That doesn't matter. You are the franchise.
That's a hard concept even for adults. We all attach our self-worth to those money bags.
He's teaching them to separate their net worth from their self-worth. For a kid from a titleized school who might feel less than because of their circumstances, that's a radical message. It says, your value is set in stone. The environment doesn't change the player.
I can see how that would really land. It gives them a sense of dignity that isn't conditional.
And by physically coloring the player and leaving the money blank, They're practicing prioritizing themselves over the external outcome.
Okay, so we have the content, but I want to talk about the drive, the actual agenda for the day. Because they don't just jump into coloring, they start with food.
Phase 1, the locker room. Fuel first. This is pure biology. Coach Warren's rule is simple. Food is fuel. Stabilize the nervous system.
It's Maslow's hierarchy 101. You can't learn if you're hungry.
Exactly. But framing it as fuel for an athlete removes any stigma. It's performance nutrition. And Charlotta does a check-in. Legs heavy, head's clear. She's treating them like pros.
Then phase 2, the owner's box, the intro.
This is all about establishing authority and safety. Coach Warren addresses the principle, sets the system. It signals that this is serious business. And Charlotta introduces herself as support staff for life.
I'm here for you, not just for the teachers.
Exactly. Then they move to phase 3, the scouting report, which is a Q&A. And Charlotta asks a very specific question. She asks, what is the hardest thing about being a Panther right now?
That's a great question. It's not how are you feeling, which just gets you fine.
Right. It invites them to identify the defense they're playing against, bullying, hunger, whatever it is. It lets them voice the opposition without feeling like they're just complaining.
And finally, after the coloring, they have phase 4, the huddle, the debrief.
This is where they synthesize it. They ask the students, which play do you need today? And that's key. It forces them to self-diagnose.
Do I need offense, defense, or franchise value?
Right. It turns these concepts into a toolkit they can actually take with them when they leave the room.
And they end with a chant. Let the Panthers roar. I mean, say what you will about the theme, but I bet the energy in that room was completely different from when they walked in.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why this works. The strategic analysis said the school needed wraparound support. This program delivered. It hit the biological with food and breath, the psychological with identity and worth, and the social with the team structure.
It effectively stops the bleeding for an hour and just resets the baseline for everyone.
And it does it by respecting the students. That, for me, is the biggest takeaway. The franchise tag idea. It treats these Title I kids as high-value assets, not problems to be solved. And when you treat people like assets, they tend to start performing like them.
It's a powerful lesson in just translation. You have to speak the language of the people you're trying to reach.
You do. And you have to give them a playbook.
So we've unpacked the school's needs, the neuroscience of the coloring, the philosophy of the franchise tag. But before we wrap, I want to go back to that franchise idea one more time. Because honestly, I think that applies way beyond a middle school in Tampa.
I completely agree. And that's really the thought I want to leave our listeners with today.
Let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time on those students coloring the player and actively ignoring the money bags, the contract. In your own life, you're constantly facing those money bags. It might be your salary, sure, but it's also the quarterly review, your follower count, the praise you get, your to-do list. They're all external metrics. So my question is this. If you genuinely adopted that franchise tag mentality, if you believed your value was set in stone, completely independent of how you perform tomorrow, how would that change the way you play? Would you be less afraid to take a risk? Would you be less defensive about criticism? If the money is guaranteed, you play for the love of the game, not the fear of being cut. So, can you mentally color yourself in and leave the money bags blank?
That is a serious question to chew on. Stop looking at the scoreboard and start trusting the player. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Legacy Prep Playbook. Hopefully you found a play you can use. We'll see you next time.